Thank you for subscribing to our channel. Today is Thursday, January 7, 2021. Al Jazeera report: India's economy braces for biggest contraction since 1952. India's economy is set for its biggest annual contraction in records going back to 1952 as the rapid spread of coronavirus cases and measures to contain them hurt businesses and households. Gross domestic product will shrink 7.7% in the financial year ending March 2021, the Statistics Ministry said in its first advance estimate published on Thursday. That's steeper than a 7.5% drop forecast by the Reserve Bank of India, as well as economists surveyed by Bloomberg.
Al Jazeera report: Qatar FM, shutting down Al Jazeera not discussed in GCC talks. The shutting down of Al Jazeera media network, as demanded by the four blockading nations in 2017, was not discussed during talks to resolve the Gulf Cooperation Council (GCC) crisis that pitted Qatar against its Gulf Arab neighbors, Qatar's foreign minister said. Following the cutting off of ties in 2017, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Egypt and Bahrain issued a 13-point list of demands to end the blockade, including the closure of Qatar's Al Jazeera media network.
Deutsche Welle report: Joe Biden slams pro-Trump mob as domestic terrorists. U.S. President Joe Biden on Thursday called the pro-Trump mob that sieged the U.S. Capitol domestic terrorists and said they would have been treated differently had they been Black Lives Matter protesters. The offenders should not be called protesters, rather, a riotous mob, insurrectionists, domestic terrorists, Biden said in Wilmington, Delaware. He said outgoing President Donald Trump was guilty of trying to use a mob to silence the voices of nearly 160 million Americans who voted in the November presidential election.
CNN report: GE won't claw back former CEO Jeff Immelt's pay after private jet scandal. Jeff Immelt's 16 years at the helm of General Electric left the company in shambles. The once great company was drowning in debt, under fire from authorities and facing severe financial stress. A year after he stepped down as CEO in 2017, GE's crumbling stock was kicked out of the Dow Jones Industrial Average for the first time in more than a century. Immelt further angered shareholders because GE used not one, but two, private jets to escort him around the world.
Deutsche Welle report: Rare snowfall hits Spain due to Storm Filomena. Madrid and other parts of Spain were blanketed in snow on Thursday as the southern European country witnessed record low temperatures due to Storm Filomena, forecasters said. If the forecasts are confirmed, we could be facing one of the most extensive snowfalls in recent years, said Ruben del Campo, spokesman for Spain's IMET weather agency. Snow fell heaviest in the northern and central parts of Spain.
Deutsche Welle report: Uganda opposition leader Bobi Wine asks ICC to investigate rights abuses. Ugandan opposition leader Bobi Wine on Thursday called on the International Criminal Court (ICC) to investigate the country's president and senior officials for alleged human rights abuses. In comments during an online press conference from his car, Wine said his lawyer had submitted a filing to the court. He has requested that the ICC investigate longtime President Yoweri Museveni, Security Minister Eli Tumwine and 8 senior security officials.
Fox report: New York City shootings, homicides soared in 2020, crime data shows. Shootings and murders skyrocketed in 2020 throughout the Big Apple, the NYPD said as it released year-end crime data late Wednesday. The number of shootings soared 97% from 777 in 2019 to 1531 in 2020, and murders jumped by 44% from 319 to 462, according to the NYPD. The city watched violence cut through all 5 boroughs in 2020, sometimes taking down innocent victims in crimes that shocked the city, such as the shooting of 1-year-old Devell Gardner, who was killed at a Brooklyn barbecue in July.
Fox report: Capitol Hill riot comparison to Brexit puts UK lawmaker under fire. A senior Welsh politician is under fire after comparing Wednesday's unrest on Capitol Hill to those in the United Kingdom who backed a second referendum on Brexit. Andrew R.T. Davies, a former Conservative Party leader and the current Welsh Conservative health spokesman, made the remarks in a tweet while responding to Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer, who called the scenes from the US horrendous. These are not protesters, this a direct attack on democracy and legislators carrying out the will of the American people, Starmer wrote.
Fox report: Iran warns Trump of revenge. Iraq issues arrest warrant for president in Soleimani killing. The leader of Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps is warning President Trump that revenge on the perpetrators of General Qasem Soleimani's martyrdom is definite and serious, according to a video that has surfaced on Twitter. Major Gen. Hossein Salami made the comments, which were translated from Persian, during a speech broadcast on the state-run IRIB news agency. They came following the one-year anniversary of the assassination of Iran's former top general, who mourners gathered to remember this past weekend at the site where he was hit by a U.
CNN report. Bitcoin tops $40,000, just days after passing $30,000. Bitcoin first topped $19,000 in December 2017 before crashing spectacularly to around $3,200 a year later. But long-term buy-and-hold Bitcoin bulls, or hodlers as they're known in crypto circles, are having the last laugh. That's because the price of one Bitcoin XBT topped more than $40,000 Thursday, double the value from a little more than 3 years ago. Prices later slid back to around $3,800.
BBC report. COVID. WHO urges tougher measures to curb alarming variant. WHO Europe Director Hans Kluge said tougher measures were needed to flatten the steep vertical line of rising cases in some countries. He said 22 European countries now have cases of the variant, calling this an alarming situation. First detected in November, the variant has driven a spike in cases in the UK. Its spread has concerned many European countries that have already imposed full national lockdowns to tackle a marked rise in infections during winter.
CNN report. Body of man who fell into Victoria Falls in New Year's Day tragedy retrieved. The body of a man who fell into Victoria Falls Gorge on New Year's Day has been retrieved after a group of volunteers abseiled and swam to reach his body, authorities told CNN. On an outing with his friends and their wives and girlfriends, Roy George Tinashe Dickinya, 40, missed a step and slipped while walking parallel to the edge of the gorge. Surfaces were wet and slippery due to heavy rain and he couldn't catch his grip, sliding down the rocks and eventually falling from a height of roughly 108 meters, his friends told CNN.
BBC report. Capitol riots. Questions mount over security failure. Many consider it incomprehensible that thousands of pro-Trump supporters were able to force their way inside one of the country's most historically and politically significant buildings at a time when elected lawmakers were inside moving to certify Joe Biden's election victory. Photographs and footage showed the extent to which the mob were able to roam around inside. Scores of Trump supporters were seen taking photographs and live streaming their actions, with many looting and vandalizing symbols of U.S. democracy as they went.
CNN report. The Wonted's Tom Parker celebrates significant reduction in size of brain tumor. British singer Tom Parker, best known for being part of popular boy band The Wanted, has told fans there has been a significant reduction in the size of his inoperable brain tumor. The 32-year-old said in October that he was undergoing treatment after being diagnosed with a grade 4 glioblastoma tumor. In an update posted on Instagram on Thursday, he said he had been responding well to treatment.
BBC report. COVID-19. Australia to begin mass vaccinations in February. Prime Minister Scott Morrison said regulators were now expected to approve the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine by the end of January. He announced the plans on Thursday as the cities of Sydney and Melbourne battled to control new clusters. By March, 4 million Australians could be vaccinated, he said. We are now in a position where believe we will be able to commence vaccinations in mid to late February, Mr. Morrison said.
Al Jazeera report. Will the pro-Trump riot change U.S. politics? Don't count on it. It was months after a disputed election and charges of an illegitimate president were dominating an era of deep political divisions that were growing deeper by the day. Then terrorists attacked the United States on September 11, 2001. Hours after planes were flown into buildings in New York City and Washington, D.C., and nearly 3,000 perished, Congress put politics aside and came together at the U.S. Capitol in a moment shaped by fear, followed by resolve.
Fox report. Florida man identified in Capitol riot viral photo carrying U.S. House lectern. Report. As the FBI seeks the public's help in identifying the rioters who stormed Capitol Hill on Wednesday, the man captured in a viral photo smiling and waving as he makes off with the U.S. House lectern has reportedly been identified by residents of his Florida community. The photo, taken by Getty Images' Win McNamee, quickly spread on social media following reports of the chaos erupting at the nation's capital.
Thank you for watching 5 p.m. recap. To be notified, you can subscribe our channel and activate the bell.